We can totally do this.
Look, there'll be passport checks, border controls are going to be onto us all the time.
Eventually, maybe, but the faster we are now, the better our chances. Look, it's not loads, but I can get you more. Look, you go and get milk, go and get nappies, whatever you think he'll need. Right, I'll go to the charity shop and I'll get a pram and we'll do this.
This is totally Mad Max.
Talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 332 of the Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that used to have a lot of flashbacks, but we've put that all behind us. I'm Gavin.
And I've seen Charlie DeMello's ass.
Does Charlie know this?
I'm sure he does. I mean, I haven't told him, but I'm sure he knows that everybody has seen his ass if they have watched Rivals on the Hulu in America and Disney Plus everywhere else.
That's Disney Plus?
Which is hilarious.
So Charlie's bottom is in the House of the Mouse?
Yes. Charlie's bottom is a Disney princess.
And here I was thinking that the most exciting Charlie DeMello news was going to be that he follows us on Blue Sky.
He's on Blue Sky now? Oh, must follow.
Well, somebody with that name. I'm assuming it's him.
If he's followed us, it's probably him. I hope it's him. Charlie
But
gets
that wasn't the most exciting news.
Yeah. So Charlie gets his bottom out in this, if you haven't seen it yet. In fact, every man in the show gets his bottom out, except for David Tennant.
One wonders
One wonders.
what those underpants are covering then.
What does a Gallifreyan ass look like? It looks like Matt Smith.
Oh, does it? Just as well that Peter Capaldi didn't get his ass out. I'd imagine it'd be a little wrinkly now. Oh, that's a very unfair assumption to make about Peter Capaldi's ass, I guess.
I'm trying to think. Did he get his ass out in Curse of the White Worm? I can't remember. I was stoned every time I watched that movie.
I don't know. All I know is that this is minute 2 of just talking about arses.
Which is my kind of show.
We've got another 98 to fill. And fill them we will.
Yes. Yes. As full as Charlie's blue jeans.
Now, I haven't spent a huge amount of time thinking about Charlie DeMello's bottom. But I am imagining peachy. I'm imagining smooth. And I'm imagining peachy.
Well, yours is rather peachy.
Yeah.
You've
It's not really
got,
smooth, though.
You've got a delightful ass.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I have an ass and I'm not afraid to use it.
No, and it's quite firm and delightful.
Oh, yeah. It's a practice my clenches. Normally when I'm watching Coronation Street.
Right. Or, the latest news in the politics of this country.
No, we're not talking about that anymore. I still can't talk about it. I had lunch with Steve today and we barely talked about it because I'm like, I just can't talk about it. I'm sorry.
Did he try to talk about it?
Yes. He needs someone to talk to.
Tell him he can call me. I need to go over there and get my sign anyway.
No, so he delivered it back.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Well, then I don't have to go get my sign anyway.
There we go. Freed up some of your time.
Yeah.
How are you otherwise?
Yeah. All right. Buried in comic books at work.
Buried in comic books. Hold on. Auction talk.
Yes. Yeah. We have this Star Wars kind of nerdy auction that's supposed to come up not this coming Sunday, not 2 days from now, but the next Sunday. So I am kind of swamped trying to get all of these comic books done because I was sick and out of work for most of last week. Was it last week?
Yes.
Yes. So it's been tense. It's been me freaking out that I'm not going to get it all done in time. But I will probably get it done in time because this is what happens. I freak out, I get all anxious, and I get the work done. Yesterday, I found the first appearance of Bullseye in a Daredevil comic book. So that's worth like $200.
Mentioning Bullseye, I thought we were going back to Charles de Mello's Bottom.
I was worried that you were thinking that it was a Toy Story comic book. It's not.
Sure.
Ride Like the Wind Bullseye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
But anyway, different Bullseye. This one is the one known for murdering people that Daredevil loves. But anyway, so yeah, it's been fun, I guess. How was your week?
I had quite a stressful week at work, actually. Never think about it. Mm-hmm. But I don't go on about it on the podcast. That's all I'm saying.
Well, does it involve comic books?
No.
That's why.
It involves testing.
Yeah. Comic books are a little bit more exciting than
Let's
testing.
talk about the R code that I wrote to compare associate information on two spreadsheets to identify which rows have changed between one spreadsheet and the other. And that is me every time I hit auction talk. Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that oh so sleepy Corrie news.
Alan Halsall is set to begin his time down under. But not like that.
Back to Charlie de Mello's Bottom again.
And I'm a Celebrity.
Charlie must be, if he does listen to this, he's sitting there thinking, I've not been in the show for fucking years. Leave me alone.
You know he doesn't think that of us. But anyway, back to Alan Halsall, who's the ass that we are talking about now. Mm-hmm. Only it wasn't his ass that kept him out of I'm a Celebrity last year.
Oh, it was his leg.
It was his knee.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to bow out last year, but this year he is A-OK, and he's put on his khakis and his wee colonizer hat and is down in Australia in the outback.
In the rainforests of Queensland, I think.
Are there rainforests in Queensland? When I think of Australia, I just think the whole thing is dry.
Oh, I tell you, Helen, when we landed in Sydney and drove to Dapto, like 70 miles away or so, you've never seen as many trees.
Oh, well, someday you'll have to take me there.
No.
Fuck you!
Yeah. Fuck you, I'm not taking you to Australia.
Why? Condolences to the family of Timothy West.
Oh, are we done talking about Alan Halsall? Because I'd like to note
Go right ahead.
I don't really agree with I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's a good show.
Right.
I don't like all the creepy crawlies that get killed during it or eaten during it. It just leaves a bad taste, I think. And I think we should really move on from I'm a Celebrity. I think it's far too old to be getting series after series renewed.
I don't know. I think it's good that they're normalizing the eating of bugs, considering with climate change, that's the only protein that's going to be available to us in just a few years.
So, on that cheery note.
On that cheery note, condolences to the family of Timothy West, who died this week at the age of 90. West played Eric Babbage on Corrie in 2013, as well as starring in other soaps, lots of Shakespeare, and a few movies you might have heard of.
Yeah, a very well-known face.
Yes. Yes, he All Creatures Great and Small.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's where I remember him most from.
Yes, me too.
But, yeah, that's a wee shame.
It is a wee shame. I mean, he had a
good age, though.
A good, long, full life. And towards the end of his life, he was doing this adorable show with his wife where they were touring areas on boats. And it was a cute little series with the two of these older actors together and doing stuff together. And it's just really nice.
Yeah, I would say national treasure kind of levels.
Yes. Yes, I would agree with that.
Sad news.
Yes, very sad. And finally, Peter Ash is set to take the stage in Picture You Dead, alongside fellow soap actors Fiona Wade off The Emmerdale and George Rainsford off of The Casualty. So I'm assuming that will be after he is in the Aladdin panto that I think will be starting soon, because we're starting to get into the Christmas season.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to do all we can to avoid seeing Red One this weekend because it's the Christmas season.
No.
And that's Corrie News. Because we don't want it to be the Christmas season.
It's too early,
We
isn't
just
it?
had Halloween.
I was thinking we were just in November, and then I thought, oh no, we're kind of mid-November now.
Right, yeah, which is weird because it was just October. What has happened?
Oh, time flies, doesn't
It's
it?
daylight savings. That's what I'm blaming it on. It's the darkness. The darkness.
Where's my guitar? For my Justin Stockings rides again. Oh, not that darkness.
Yeah. Hello,
You
darkness,
don't know
my
what
old
You don't know
friend.
what I'm talking about.
And it's right behind you.
That's a bass guitar.
Yeah, well, it's still a guitar
Yeah,
that you own.
I can't play Justin Stockings rides again on a bass guitar.
You
though.
can't play Justin Stockings Rides again on any guitar.
Oh, how cruel.
And that's Corrie News.
Again.
Yes.
Well, reasonable waters, I would say, this week. But either way, those currents always lead us home to the feedback section that I like to call Everyone's a Critic. Stephen writes in this week in response to last week's blog. It was a good blog last week. You should read last week's blog on ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street.
Yeah.
Stephen writes, a monkey's paw curls a finger, and next week we see flashbacks of where various ghosts were the night that Joel died. And after the big reveal, Ghost Imran returns to prosecute Ghost Tim's dad, Ghost Uncle Stephen, Ghost Joel, and various other killed-off villains in Ghost Court.
Dun dun dun.
And I mean this
Dun,
sincerely.
dun.
I'm sad that didn't happen.
I kind of want to see it. I think that would be funny.
I have a picture in my head of all these ghosts that are looking kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars.
Yeah. Like, so would they have like floaty tails like Casper, or would they be like more like ghosts with legs? I prefer my ghosts with floaty tails.
I mean, I'd like them all to have bed sheets, but then how would you tell which one was which?
That's half the fun.
Right.
And the twist is they're all Casey Affleck.
That's a great movie. People hate that movie.
I know, I don't understand.
A Ghost Story is a wonderful movie.
I don't understand. For the pie scene alone, that is a great movie about grief. And
Rooney Mara eats a pie.
yes, Rooney Mara eats a pie. And it's great. Because she eats the whole fucking thing while sitting on the floor of her kitchen with her hands. It's fantastic.
Then Wendy writes, I'm not getting the whole Romeo and Juliet depiction of Max and racist Kelly here. Am I meant to care about them both? It seems like no one else is going to care either.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think you're making a good point here,
Yeah.
because this is a very rushed together, it feels, between the two of them.
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's had enough time to grow for it to be as important as it seems to be this week. Then, how'd you say Neve writes, Clayton escaped, met Max, whose mother he killed, so as an act of retribution, Clayton hit Joel, pushed him off the bridge, stole his luggage, wrote the suicide note, hid the other car with the tarpaulin, gave the abortion pills to Lauren, and then set fire to Dobbsy's cupboard.
It's another head wound of the week sort of thing, isn't it? Where somebody gets a head wound in this show, and instead of acting like someone with a head wound, they act like a person who hasn't been hit in the head with a crowbar.
What I love about just the theories in general, and I love this one particularly because it manages to bring in Tyrone's cupboard into the mix just for no reason. Gemma Winter Brown writes, not the real Gemma Winter Brown,
Who isn't real.
I think the episode would have been vastly better, that's talking about tonight's episode, without the music and editing. I think the actual acting and
Hard agree.
I think the actual acting and writing was good. A lot of the most effective dark corrie scenes worked best with just a reliance on the actors. The editing and music just took me out of it. Really, those things have a big impact on how you view an episode. Take Richard Hillman or Pat Phelan. They never had this stuff, and they're two of the biggest villains in corrie. Hard to argue.
Very much so.
I guess we will get into it as we talk about it more. But
I mean, it was just last week, wasn't it, that I was criticizing American soaps for the corny music? And how I appreciate that Coronation Street tends to not have the corny music playing all the time. And then this week, what do?
Yeah, that's aged well.
They decide to be a fucking American soap. What the hell, guys? You're not Young and the Restless.
Thank you to Gemma Winter-Brown, to How'd You Say Neve, Wendy and Stephen for their comments this week. Feedback is always welcome. Send us your thoughts and I will probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. Or we love it when people write actual letters to us. Send your proper mail to The Talk of the Street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827. And please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, but only in the interests of brevity.
Only.
And now we'll podcast for coffee. Thank you to Aussie Ali for our coffees this week.
Oi, oi, oi.
Every time.
She must know. She must know that that's just... I can't help myself.
Rather than saying thank you.
That... Oi, oi, oi is Australian for thank you. Did you know this? Did they teach you this when you went and hung out in their rainforests?
Well, I didn't hang out there.
When you drove through their rainforests?
I was a young, impressionable boy at that time.
With a mullet.
With a mullet and an ass to die for. Anyway, Aussie Ali sends us some coffee money this week. Thank you very much, Aussie Ali. We very much appreciate it. Aussie Ali writes, forget coffee, get yourselves a couple of iron brews. And so I did. It is nice again to have an iron brew. And thank you, Aussie Ali. I did throw tradition to the wind and used Aussie Ali's coffee money to buy some of these iron brews off the Amazon.
Lovely. Even though we're supposed to be boycotting Jeff Bezos at the moment. That's all right.
Well, you tell me a better way to get iron brew.
Drive to Canada.
Anyway, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And I am very much appreciating my iron brew tonight. The Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/The Talk of the Street. You can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. And we now have a Patreon site where you can also show us some love. Sign up as a friend of the podcast there at patreon.com/The Talk of the Street. But remember, you can always support the podcast for free and get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts.
And we will be very grateful for all of the help that you do to spread the word about the Talk of the Street.
Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm going to split the main story into two, and we will talk about the first part of it right now in Scenes from a Railway Viaduct, Part 1. Mm-hmm. On Monday, in the hospital, Racist Kelly, Max and Bobby are contemplating Frankie getting home tomorrow. So that's nice, Helen, isn't it?
Yes. Define home.
A foster home.
Yes.
Turns out that the foster care is round the corner from the street. So that's nice as well.
Yes, everybody gets to stay together.
Racist Kelly wants to meet up with Dee Dee to clear the air with her. And later Sabrina shows up. We haven't seen Sabrina in ages and I thought she'd left. She's left now, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
She wants to speak to Racist Kelly. She gives her blessing about the relationship with Max. They
looks at the baby.
Yeah, they look at Frankie for a bit, and Sabrina has so many questions about the baby, it's almost as though she has something on her mind, or in her uterus. At this point, I'm thinking, oh dear. Are we going to have Sabrina being pregnant as well?
But no, she's off the show.
Yeah.
Sadly. No word on Gav.
Nope.
Is he in prison?
He got lifted, didn't he? Yeah, he got lifted.
He got lifted, but we don't know if he got sent down again.
No. The boys come in and in an awfully saccharine scene, they give Racist Kelly a photo album that's empty for all her new memories to go in.
It's got one picture in the front of the three of them together. The cutest throuple on Coronation Street.
Time to look to the future, says Bobby, very keen to say something that's right on the nose. Racist Kelly is overcome with gratitude, and yet somehow is still not redeemed.
How do you feel about Sabrina saying with a straight face to Racist Kelly, I'm so glad you and Max got back together?
Yeah, I'm not falling for it.
No, not for a second.
Not falling for it at all.
Yeah.
The whole way that relationship started was quite antagonistic between the two of them, and they did make their peace together, I think.
Right,
but
yeah.
still, you want to...
He's still my, he's still my ex-boyfriend, and I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
It is just a hair shy of a black person saying to Racist Kelly, I forgive you. And that feels kind of cheap.
I'm trying to remember why Max and Sabrina
Which
in the
time?
first place.
The last time?
For the
I
final
thought it
time.
was because of Racist Kelly.
Did Max accuse Sabrina of being behind Racist Kelly's disappearance or something like that?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
It wasn't. And now she's gone. Yeah. Don't like that.
No, she was kind of the best thing about Max for the longest time.
Absolutely.
I think the actor has gone on to go to drama school and continue her studies and
Bigger
stuff.
and better things.
So
yes.
I think it's this was always going to be a short-term gig for her, probably, but still, we liked her an awful lot. And everything that I see online was
Who knows?
of a similar opinion.
Maybe she'll come back.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Ed finds Dee Dee in a world of her own, but she's found some courage, and despite his protests, she's off to the cop shop to hand herself in. She confesses to Kit that she was the one what twatted Joel over the head with a crowbar, but it was in self-defence, and she promises that he was alive when she left him, and he was found away from the scene, so
Yes.
he must have been okay. She mentions Joel's suitcase, which seems to take Kit by surprise. A suitcase, you say? He seems to take pleasure in grilling her and saying that she deliberately murdered him, but why would she leave him a tip-off? Tinker interrupts the interview to tell Kit that they found the murder weapon, but it's not a crowbar, it's a rock, and it's covered in Joel's DNA.
Like a rock. And it's funny because it doesn't look like there's any DNA on that rock.
Well, can you see DNA?
Well, when he says covered with Joel's DNA...
I don't think he said covered. I think
No, I'm pretty sure he said covered. One assumes that by what he means by DNA is blood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very clean rock. You don't see any blood on it.
But there was DNA on it, because that was the murder weapon.
Yes, it was.
And there was something else that they found with the rock that we don't find out what that is immediately. Ed is in Nina's Rolls meanwhile and speaks to Roy and Carl about Dee Dee turning herself in. Carla seems particularly interested in this, but we do learn that the message Joel left was after Dee Dee twatted him. Outside.
So his head wound that we see while he's on the phone with
Was
Dee Dee
from Dee Dee,
was
yeah.
from Dee Dee, yes.
Outside, Max has heard about this and he runs over to Ed to get the lowdown. I'm like, why is Max so interested in this? But Ed's too busy to talk to him. Meanwhile, Swain's in the Rovers getting pished in the middle of the day. I don't know that this is a great look for Swain. Getting pished in a pub where most of the people that she arrests also drink.
We've seen Tinker do it 1,000 times. It's fine.
Yeah, but that's Tinker. He's an idiot. Carla comes in to tell her about Dee Dee, but before they can react, Kit comes in and arrests Swain, and she's taken to the station where it turns out that Swain's CS spray was the other thing that Tinker had found in a hedge near where the rock that killed Joel was. Swain explains that she lost the CS spray in a pursuit of a mugger. Kit is an asshole to her as he questions her about her whereabouts after leaving the hospital, and Swain sticks to her guns, pointing out how unlikely she was able to kill anyone and hide a body with suspected broken ribs. And she seems confident until Kit talks about tracking her phone's whereabouts on the evening of the murder.
Right, and her phone was damaged with the whole mugging thing.
Mm-hmm.
But she's absolutely right. There's no way in hell a woman with broken ribs is going to be able to lift a rock.
Well, they could lift a rock, but could they lift a Joel?
It would be very difficult to bend down and lift a rock if you have broken ribs. And it would be hard if you have broken ribs to then lift your arm to throw a rock or to hit somebody with a rock.
Would you think that would be easier or harder than pushing a body over a bridge?
Yeah, that would also be extremely hard
But
and nearly
easier
impossible.
or harder?
I'd say about the same.
Same. You think it's the same?
It's all impossible to do with broken ribs.
All the same, says
all
Helen.
the same.
So he wants to keep her in the cells overnight and take Betsy into care.
He's a dick.
She asks him why he's doing this. He says it's nothing personal. It's very
totally personal.
In the pub, Max and Bobby quiz Ed about Dee Dee, and he tells them that she's been released. Then Carla comes in to shout at Kit for arresting Swain, and this is overheard by Bobby, but particularly Max, who Carla glares at on the way out. And we finally see, in one of those gosh darn flashbacks, what Carla saw that night. As she came out of the factory, she saw Racist Kelly and Max loading a car with a suitcase. "You off on your holidays, ball bags," she says.
Now, this scene confuses me.
Were they taken? Maybe they were taken out of the car.
Why would they be doing either thing out in the middle of the street
At night.
Yeah,
It makes no sense.
right in front of the factory? Mm-hmm. That makes no sense.
Nope.
There's no reason why they would be taking that suitcase out at that point in the middle of the road.
At night.
Yeah.
Just leave it in the trunk of the car.
Yeah.
Or the boot if you prefer. So on Wednesday, Oprah is hanging out flashbacks. You get a flashback. You get a flashback.
Everybody gets a flashback.
Everybody gets a flashback.
I already said that.
Did you? I didn't hear. Until eventually the flashbacks start having flashbacks and we have to move on. Carla catches up with Swain and Nina's roles.
It's like an epileptic seizure.
Swain was released due to lack of evidence, but after Betsy goes off to college, Swain confides that she's worried that she'll be charged soon, thanks to that bloody CS spray can being found next to the murder weapon. She thinks she's been set up. Carla is aghast and decides to go chase up a lead of her own. At the hospital, ahead of Frankie being discharged, Max and Racist Kelly are chatting about their future and how the three of them will be a family once they get through this. And they seem very cautious about keeping their noses clean. Carla comes in, and as we see the rest of Carla's flashback, as Max and Racist Kelly unconvincingly say that they're running away from Joel without Frankie, hence the suitcase. Back in the hospital, Carla isn't buying it and asks if they killed Joel. Racist Kelly does all the talking, calls it nonsense, and Max backs her up. Carla can't let it lie though, and she can't allow Swain to carry the can for this. So she tells him that she's going off to tell the cops.
Or Dee Dee.
And that's what she's going to do. Back at Nina's roles, Swain and Dee Dee make friends, and Swain shares her fears about getting framed for the murder. How else could her CS spray show up where it showed up? Carla meets them back at Dee Dee's and explains about what she saw Racist Kelly and Max doing, and Dee Dee confirms that the suitcase was Joel's. It was red and it was metallic.
And it was a hard case.
I think Swain says, "We need to report this," and Carla says,
Already done.
"Already done it."
Yeah, that was great.
Well done, Carla.
Yes.
Then Kit turns up at number 8 looking for Racist Kelly and Max, and Shona is all flustered thanks to another storyline and doesn't have time for this bullshit or these questions. And Shona, Kit and David leave, which allows Max and Racist Kelly to sneak down the noisiest stairs on the street and plan their escape.
Yes. The return of the stairway of discovery.
I was thinking about the stairs of discovery the other day, being in a different house.
Yes.
But again, it seems to work. You come down the stairs to discover stuff, don't you?
Yes, you do.
Racist Kelly has an idea of where to hide out in the meantime, Kit is at Dee Dee's now and is brought up to speed, especially when Dee Dee announces about the tracker that racist Kelly had on Joel's phone. Why has nobody mentioned this? Yes, why has nobody mentioned this?
Why indeed?
To the hospital, cries Swain. You're suspended, shouts Kit. Suck my balls, shouts Swain, and off they go. But there's no sign of the two of them at the hospital, so Kit puts out an APB on their asses. And it turns out that the fugitives have snuck into Joel's old flat with plans to hide out there. Carla warns David, who can't get through to Max on the phone, so goes off to try and find him, and racist Kelly thinks this is the end, and it's a matter of time before they get caught. At the flat, racist Kelly thinks this is the end, and it's a matter of time before they get caught, and she's lost the chance to go at the foster home thing with Frankie, because that's all happening at this point as well.
Right, yes, the foster mother is there, wondering where the hell racist Kelly is.
And very impatient.
Yes.
I've got places to go.
Yes.
Max thinks this is his fault, so dreams up an idea of hooking up with a mate in Newcastle who works on the ferries.
Right, yeah. And he's like,
What mate?
I've got a mate in Newcastle that I went to school with, and he said if I'm ever in trouble that I can make a quick escape on one of he can sneak me onto the ferries. And it's like, what conversation did you have with your mate at school where this would come up? If you're ever in trouble, Max, if you ever bomb another truck with Alia in it or something, I can get you out of the country on my ferry. When did this conversation happen?
And presumably when they were at school, the guy wasn't working on the ferries at the time.
Right. So he must have said it after they were at
So
school.
they must keep in touch.
Yeah.
That we never see.
Right. And he has no name.
Max.
It's not my mate Hamish works
Max.
in Newcastle in the ferry.
Max. Yes, Hamish. I like you, Max. You're a good kid. But see if you're ever in trouble. Just, here's my number. Give me a phone. And I'll get you on one of those ferries to Amsterdam. No questions asked.
Yes. I'll sneak you on.
Who hasn't had one of those conversations?
Thanks, Hamish.
Good guy, Hamish.
Yes. You can't go wrong with a dude named Hamish.
He lives in Newcastle.
And he's got red hair.
Of course he does.
And he looks like Brendan Gleeson.
So he tells her to go and get some supplies, and then they can nab Frankie and fuck off and be together as a wee family. He tells her that he loves her, so racist Kelly nips off to the shops, while Max doesn't look like he has a friend in Newcastle at all, because when she gets back, Max has fucked off and left a Dear Racist Kelly letter that sends her into the pits of despair, almost how I was feeling at this point.
Yeah.
He walks into the cop shop and hands himself into Kit, admitting that he was the one what killed Joel Deering, Esquire. Meanwhile, racist Kelly shows up at Dee Dee's now, saying that she had a wobble about the fostering, but she's calmed down now. She's called them and it's all sorted out. She's surprised to hear that Max has admitted to the murder, and Swain and Carla reckon that she was involved too, and judging by her awkward reaction, it seems clear that she did, but she denies it, and Dee Dee gives her a hug. What was in that letter? In the interview room, Max tells his story about how he sprayed Joel with the CS spray that he'd stolen from Swain. Surely they could prove that. And we see Max's flashback where Joel quickly overpowers him on the Viaduct bridge and leads him to the side, and it's kind of looking like he's going to throw him over. And at that, we don't see anything, but we hear Max say that he twatted Joel with a rock, and when he checked to see if he was dead, he pushed him over the bridge into the river, and Kit is very dubious about this. Max calls it self-defence and admits to taking the suitcase, and then someone comes in to whisper into Kit's ear, "You're a fanny, you ball bag." Max is led to the cells, and we see him in flashback pushing the body into the river. Sitting in the cell, he mutters to himself, "What have I done? What have I done?"
Max is French now.
And that's where we're going to leave that story for now.
One would think he would be speaking in an Australian accent, considering he is now Mad Max.
And how would they say that then?
I've already offended the Australians this evening. I'm not going to make it worse.
Well, you've offended one Australian. I'm inviting you to offend a lot of them.
No. All I can say in Australian is that's not a knife.
Very good. So at this point, are you thinking that Max is the villain of the piece here?
It's hard to say that the killer of Joel Deering is a villain,
Oh, sure.
but it does kind of insinuate to me that he wasn't alone on that bridge with Joel.
The
that
way
there
that
was a
they're-
third person.
The way that they're acting together
Yeah.
leads you to believe that Max didn't act alone and
No.
probably didn't do what he
The
says that
twatting.
he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they made this big deal about having the Friday episode wasn't released at 7:00 in the morning, which I really approve of. This is how I kind of hoped that this would go, that the episodes will get released at 7:00 in the morning on the day of broadcast, but for a special occasion like the big soap week or the big reveal or the denouement of a storyline, they'll hold it back and just make sure that everyone's watching it at the same time to reduce the risk of spoilers, I guess. And I think that's a really smart idea, and that's a way that I hoped it would work, and that's the way that it did work, and I fully approve. And it just makes me like the early release even more.
Yes.
When they have the sense to not do it just because.
Yeah.
So I thought it was good. But up to here, yeah, it was like, really?
Yeah.
Because this happened at the end of September.
Yeah.
We've had the whole of October, half of November,
In fairness, we barely remember October.
and Max was in the show,
Yes, he was.
and Racist Kelly was in the show,
Yes.
and they managed to be absolutely innocuous all the way through
Yeah.
until Wednesday, until
Yes.
Monday and Wednesday,
We
when
are
they
supposed-
started to look suspicious.
We are supposed to believe that Carla didn't say anything to anybody about seeing Max and Racist Kelly with a suitcase the night of Joel's murder until now. She spent like a month and some days.
Month and a half.
Yeah. Just sitting on that information. Just sitting on that information while she's talking constantly to Swain about the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And not saying, you know what's interesting? You know what I saw that night? You know, and you would also think that she might feel like this is suspicious because, you know, Racist Kelly says, I'm leaving because I'm afraid of Joel, and then doesn't leave.
Yeah, and Racist Kelly was all very, oh, don't call the police, we won't go anywhere,
Uh-huh.
which just made it more suspicious.
Right.
So yeah, so the reluctance to get the police involved, the fact that they were leaving in the middle of the night,
Right.
and the fact that they didn't leave,
Right.
the fact that they were really, really reluctant to get the cops involved, and Max was really saying nothing and looked like he just shot himself. Mm-hmm. None of that was suspicious for 6 weeks.
Yes.
Well, Carla's been in love, I guess. And the tracker as well. When the tracker gets mentioned, when Lizzie's tramp tracker gets mentioned, like, oh, of course, yeah, that was the whole thing. And Swain, I think Swain knew about
Swain
that.
knew about the tracker. But remember, the last time that Dee Dee tried to check the tracker, it was offline. So I think we were meant to think that it went offline maybe when Joel landed in the river, and so it's not working anymore. So it wouldn't have been working for Racist Kelly either, except it miraculously starts to work again, which makes no sense.
Yeah, before he's in the river.
Right, yes.
We'll get to that in a
Yes.
little bit. Kit very much did seem keen to, so keen to finger Swain for it,
But not like that.
and making himself suspicious in doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. And those two guys that were in the room with them, it was so weird.
The DI that was there to maintain fair play and didn't say a word.
Right, yeah. Neither one of those dudes said a word. They just sat there. They barely moved. It's like, are those real people or is this AI? Have they AI'd two dudes into the scene to save money on having to hire actors? Just to have those seats filled?
Tell you that.
Because this is not what a DI should be doing when these things get... No, wait. He does say... He does say at one point, she's already answered your question.
Swain's in complete control of that.
Sure, absolutely.
Anyway, until the point where Kit says, we'll track where your phone was. And then she seemed very concerned about that all of a sudden.
Well, because her phone was dead.
Why would she be
broken.
concerned about that?
Because she can't prove anything, because she can't prove with her phone tracking that she was at the hospital.
Maybe. All right, we'll park that there and we'll go through the other storylines and we'll come back to Friday's episode at the end. See what I'm doing there? I'm building drama.
Are you?
And I've got a volume wall behind me.
Do you?
Our next storyline tonight is Get Your Clayton On. Get Your Clayton On. On Monday.
I don't think that works.
It doesn't, no. David comes downstairs to a scene of domestic bliss as Shona is doing Lily's hair. He's very appreciative of Shona being a great mum to Lily, which makes Shona suspicious. David goes to the bistro and overhears Nick on the phone declaring his love to Toya. Nick admits it but begs David to keep his mouth shut about it. Meanwhile, David has something he wants to run by Nick and explains about the correspondence he'd been intercepting from Clayton, Shona's ne'er-do-well son who's currently at His Majesty's pleasure.
Yes.
But not like that. Nick realises that Clayton is a wrong and has done some awful shit in his time, but his advice is to talk to Shona about it because she won't be happy when she finds out that he's been hiding it from her. David, though, has thought of another way, and he goes to visit Clayton on his own in prison. After demanding to see Shona, Clayton explains that he's been speaking to a therapist and he's sorry for all the hurt that he's caused. David is unimpressed and tells Clayton that Shona doesn't want anything to do with him, and as far as she's concerned, he's dead to her. Back home, he tells Nick about his visit, and once again, Nick encourages David to tell the truth to Shona. So David seems resolved to do that, but when Shona comes in, before he can speak to her, she's brought home fish and wine, and appreciates the strain that he's been under, and suggests that they have a baby.
Yes.
What?
I appreciate the strain you've been under. Allow me to add to it. But let's remember, like 6-8 months ago, David wanted a baby and Shona said no. So
Why don't I remember this?
I don't know. There's always something that you don't remember
It's
or
not.
that you don't pick up on. Sometimes you're not very observant.
You'd think when I was writing out notes that something would stick. I don't remember David being, but he clearly was because he
Yes.
talks about it with Nick on Wednesday.
Right.
But yeah, this kind of completely took me by surprise.
It was a while ago, and then when she said no, nothing really came of it. So you would be excused for not remembering this.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
David is elated and quickly decides to keep his mouth shut, but his underpants, they keep open. On Wednesday, Shona is keen to go looking for rentals so they can be in their new house and procreating by Christmas. David is initially insistent on him getting a mortgage, but comes round to the idea, happy wife, etc. He goes to the bistro to talk about the Clayton situation and how Shona distracted him about the baby. How can I tell her when she's happy with me, he says. You're a fucking idiot, says Nick, and leaves him to it. Meanwhile, the cops arrive at Nina's Rolls looking for Shona. There's been some troubling news about Clayton. He's attempted suicide and he's currently in hospital. So she rushes home to get the car and drags a reluctant David to casualty. David's so insistent that he's going to be the one that's driving.
Yeah.
But
then
when he
it's-
gets there, he can't handle it.
No.
And he can't pretend to even be bothered if Clayton lives or dies.
Correct.
And then just walks out and leaves Shona on her own.
Yeah.
Despite her begging him not to.
Right. Yes. And I mean, Shona's son did kill his wife.
Let's not forget.
Let's not forget. That did happen. But Shona's your wife now. So even though you don't like Clayton, you love Shona. So maybe grow a pair, David. Maybe grow a pair.
Later, when she calls David, he's up to his tits in another storyline with Max. And Shona says that she can't be there because she has to be there for her son. Ditto, says David. And that's as far as we get with that until Friday
Yes.
this week.
Yes.
I'd like to talk about the coincidence of Clayton coming back into the show and being in prison.
All right. Well, then talk.
Because as far as we're concerned at the moment, Max is in prison.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in... Oh, well, yes. But... And David will talk about this on the phone to Shona. You know, he's like, well, Max is my son. She's like, Clayton's my son. And he's like, well, Max is my son.
Yeah, but the two of them, Clayton and Max, could end up in the same prison at the same time. And I wonder how that would...
Unless Clayton dies of his injuries.
I think if he was going to die, he'd be dead.
Shona keeps saying he's in a really bad way, though. Which seems to me that he's going to die conveniently off screen.
I don't think so. I was surprised at when we saw Clayton, though. I was like, is that the same Clayton? Because, by God, he's got older.
Well, yes, that's what happens. It's been 4 years since we've watched him run through a cemetery?
Well, yeah, but he was in it briefly before that, or after that.
Was he?
We've seen him since the cemetery run. But,
Not recently.
oh my God,
recently. He's like a man
he's
now.
He's a proper man now.
He is.
I was like, it sounds like him, and it kind of looks like him, I guess.
Yes, he's matured in jail.
He's not quite found God, but he's had his
getting close.
His therapy session and realised what he's done, and there's maybe
is legitimately sorry now.
And is attempting to make amends that David's
not
absolutely not interested in listening to.
Nah. David says nah.
It's a strange thing, forgiveness, isn't it? Forgiveness isn't really something for
the person
It's
that you're apologizing to.
It's something for you.
Right.
Because you're saying, I'm not going to be angry about this anymore.
Right.
But David's definitely not there.
No.
He's quite happy to be hating on Clayton and to be continuing to hate on Clayton and see him as the devil. And it's difficult to argue against that.
Right. Except, of course, that he is also his current wife's son.
Yes.
Yes. Because let's not forget,
soaps.
people, this is a soap opera.
Yep.
You may think that it's like a crime procedural sometimes.
Or a medical procedural sometimes.
Or, a teenage procedural.
No, this is a soap opera, an everyday story of everyday people.
Yes.
And their extraordinary lives. And sometimes they go to London.
London!
Let's move on to our next storyline. It's what Paul would have wanted. On Monday, Billy is late getting up just as Bernie arrives, with Summer fretting that Billy could have died. Todd comes in to see how the patient is doing, and for some reason Bernie tries to chase him, but it becomes clear when Gemma arrives, supposedly to clear the air with Billy, and she loses her shit on both of them before storming off. Billy goes off to see her, promising that there's nothing going on with him and Todd, and explains his state of mind when he found out that Paul hadn't heard his goodbye. He broke down. He wanted to die, but he's determined to do what Paul asked of him,
and Todd was the kiss of death because he's an undertaker.
Which is to maintain a relationship with her and the Quads, and at this, Gemma seems to forgive Billy.
Yes.
And that's all that happens on that this week.
Yes. What is it that Gemma calls Todd? It was funny. I can't remember what it was. It was funny, though. Mm-hmm. I liked it. I was like, ooh, title of ep. But apparently not.
Would you like to hazard a guess at the title of this episode?
No.
It is Totally Mad Max.
Oh, yes. That makes sense.
That's totally mad, Max. That's totally beyond the Thunderdome.
That's bait, Max.
That's bait, Max?
Yes, because Tom Hardy, the meme from Mad Max, from the Mad Max movie that's Tom Hardy is
Fury Road.
Yes, Fury. Yeah, one of the most used memes from Mad Max Thunder Road is Tom Hardy shaking his head no and pointing up and saying that's bait.
Oh, I thought you were making a Betamax joke.
It works on so many levels.
A joke 40 years in the making. Well, apparently not. The thing that I hated about this, and I didn't realise how much... Hate's a strong word.
It is.
The thing that I hated about this last week, and didn't really appreciate why I hated it as much as I did, is how much of last week and Paul getting shot into the sun and all that sort of stuff that Billy made about him.
Yeah.
Billy made so much of Paul's death and the aftermath of Paul's death
Yep.
about him.
Yeah.
And while we were arguing about Bernie and Billy and which one of them was the biggest asshole, Bernie at least was keeping it about Paul. She might have been wrong. She might have been going a little bit overboard. But what she kept on doing was saying, this is what Paul would have wanted. This is what my Apollo would have wanted. Apollo liked this, blah, 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 blah.
Right. Yeah. But not all of those things were things that Apollo liked.
Sure. But everything that Billy was doing was about Billy's pain and was about Billy's
comfort.
anger.
Yeah. That's
And,
just
and I
Billy,
don't, and I
though.
don't know if that's what they were aiming for, but I think that's what they delivered.
How do you feel about his bedhead in this week?
It was a bit of David Zhuge, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was like,
Helen is miming a nest with some critters inside it.
cheep, cheep, cheep,
Yeah.
cheep.
You don't normally see Billy kind of
Unkempt.
unkempt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was unusual. I still feel so sorry for Summer and all of this.
Right,
This
yes.
is the good thing about this storyline is it's made Summer a more appealing and empathetic character to me,
Yes.
which is great. But yeah, so they're all friends again.
Yes.
And I guess that's the end of that.
Yes.
Let's move on.
I think Gemma still hates Todd, though.
But as Todd said, he didn't do anything.
Correct. Except be in the room.
He was in the room and he pushed away Billy's advances.
Correct.
So getting angry at Todd is like completely misplaced.
Right.
But Todd's just everyone's whipping boy, it
true.
seems.
He likes it.
He does like that. That's what I've heard. That's what the graffiti says in the toilets and the Rovers anyway. Our penultimate storyline tonight is Bully for You.
Oh, we're whipping through this rather quickly, aren't we?
Yeah, a little too quickly. This was my favourite storyline this week.
Yeah.
On Monday, Tim is not enjoying the silent treatment he's getting from Sally. She's hacking furious that he let Mason sleep on her soft furnishings.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's like, you are such a Tory.
And now her mother's engagement
Her
ring is
chic
gone.
sofa. I can't believe you let that mongrel sleep on my chic sofa. I would have voted for Margaret Thatcher twice.
Hold on, let me just check. Yep,
Still dead.
she's still dead.
Still dead.
He's out in his cab when he sees Mason and his brother, and he accuses them of stealing Sally's ring.
But not like that.
Mason's brother gives Tim a mouthful of abuse while Mason looks on sheepishly. Mason turns up at number 4 later to apologise, but when Sally realises that he's there,
Oh, it's so hilarious.
she yoinks him. That's the only word you can use.
Literally yoinked that child into that house.
By the scruff of the neck and demands her ring back,
But not like that.
and she calls the cops. Mason explains that it was his brothers who saw him coming out of the house, and they insisted that they... what did they do? They saw him leave the house and they broke in later or something.
They shoved him back into the house, remember? And stole the key and got the car.
Well, we didn't see any of that.
Right, but we saw them pushing him towards the door.
He begs them not to tell the police, as they'll kill him. Tinker is there in a shot, but Tim covers, saying that it was just a misunderstanding. Sally is fucking furious again and goes to work. Mason promises Tim that he'll do his best to find the ring, but Mason returns later with no ring and a fat lip. He apologises and thanks them for not grassing them up. Tim gives him a tenner for food and sends him on his way. Sally looks like she wanted to tell him to stay, but Tim says his number one priority is keeping her safe. On Wednesday, it's good news at number 4 as Sally has heard from the police that thanks to an anonymous tip-off, the car has been found. No word on Sally's mum's ring, however, but Sally reckons it'll be sold on by now and she sends Tim off to collect the car. Later though, after collecting the car, Tim sees Mason, and it was obvious that he was the one who grassed up his brothers, who have been nicked for the car theft. Tim calls Mason a hero and a good lad, and treats him to dinner at Nina's Rolls. Sally comes in and is thrilled to learn that the ring was in the car after all, and it's back in her possession. Mason thinks his brothers will get bail, so bids them a fond farewell. He says he's a dead man walking when his brothers get out. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes. This is how you redeem a character.
This is how you do it.
This is how you redeem a character. You have them doing good things for people and not, mouthing off anymore. Because, Mason could have very easily followed his brother's lead to cover his tracks. And he doesn't. He looks genuinely embarrassed by all of this.
He does.
As he should, because his brother says some awful things about Sally.
Oh, called her a skank.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. He doesn't even know her.
Her manky old ring.
Which makes me wonder if they went upstairs and went rifling through her closet
goodness.
her special closet.
I think all that is encased in a trunk at the foot of the bed.
Yeah.
Which is also sometimes where Tim is.
Yes. But he likes it.
Wake up the gimp. Now this was really kind of heartwarming and lovely when Tim calls Mason a hero and a good lad. And that was just so sweet. And one wonders if this was supposed to be Stu and Yasmin that were involved in this storyline, and with Stu leaving, it was kind of moved on to Tim and Sally. But the great thing about having Tim and Sally involved in this now is how they inject a good bit of humour into it.
Right.
Like Tim and Sally are funny together, and they're kind of funny with Mason, and Mason, although I think it worked with him in Speed Dial, I think it works even better with him saying Mrs. Metcalf talking to Sally. It's just kind of nice that he's doing that.
And the whole yoinking scene.
The yoinking was incredible.
Right, and it only works because both of them are involved in that yoink. The look on Mason's face when he gets yoinked by Sally is just absolutely priceless. Mm-hmm. The one bit that I wasn't quite so sure of is when Sally sees Maria and goes up to Maria and apologizes for having given Mason shelter. And Maria doesn't bother to say, oh, no, it's fine now because he saved Liam's life.
Yeah, that seemed a really odd extra scene that was not needed.
No.
Not needed at all.
And it feels like Maria came into work last week just for that scene.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was no real point to it.
No.
But what I liked about the yonking scene, to go back to that just for a second, was Sally is in no way intimidated by Mason or threatened by him or scared of him.
Correct.
She's like furious and she grabs him and is making it clear in no uncertain terms that he's a wrong and then I'm calling the cops on you, you bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was superb.
Absolutely.
I loved it. Well, our final storyline then is Friday and the scenes from A Railway Viaduct Part 2. This was really difficult to write up because it was kind of all over the place.
Why is there never a train on that viaduct?
I think it's closed.
The
tracks looked kind of old and crumbly.
I kind of feel like the tracks looked rather clean and, not covered in weeds and stuff, as one would expect.
On Friday, Kit is still interviewing Max, reckoning that there's something missing from his story, and thinks that maybe he needed help the night that Joel was twatted with a brick.
Yes.
And we see a flashback of Dee Dee crying as she appears to confess to Billy. Paul, there's another little, rather than tying up loose ends, we're creating a loose end here.
Right, yes, because this means that Billy was aware of the twatting of Joel with the crowbar and never says anything.
Right.
Because he can't, because of pastor-client confidentiality.
I'm not sure that's a thing, is it?
I know it is in the Catholic Church that you can't force something that was confessed in confession in court.
This isn't Catholic, though.
Yeah. I don't know. But it does seem weird that Billy would have kept this under wraps, because you know what Billy is like when he knows something.
Oh, he's like a hen in the hot
He's
girdle.
so flustered.
So we see that happening, and we see Swain leaving the hospital, and we see Ronnie and Ed in their car, and we see Kit stealing a file. And then we see Max and Racist Kelly walking the streets arguing about Joel. She's terrified of him, but can't let it get to her, she says. He seems far angrier about the whole thing and thinks that they should do something about it. This is before the noise in the yard. And next we see Max and Racist Kelly are in the garden at number 8 after hearing that noise, and they're going back inside, and he has a knife.
It's not a knife. It's a knife.
I'm so sorry. Racist Kelly wants to know what he intended to do and reckons that Max has a bit of a bloodlust. Did we know that he had a knife before?
Yes.
Okay. We see Joel hiding as Ed and Ronnie wander by with their crowbar. They give up their search and go home because they're fucking useless. Dee Dee sees Ronnie and Ed come home and checks her tramp tracker, but it's getting no signal at this point. Ronnie just throws the crowbar down on the ground in a rage, and they storm off. Dee Dee grabs the crowbar when they go, and she seems to have been Max and Racist Kelly's noise, because the noise that she makes seems to happen when their light goes out. Separately, we see Ronnie speaking to a mysterious figure, insisting that Joel gets dealt with tonight.
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight.
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight!
What happened to you, Anthony Michael Hall? What happened to you?
Evil dies tonight!
Yes, yes.
Yes. He's no Matthew Lillard.
Oh, he could have been Shaggy, though.
He couldn't have been Shaggy.
I think he would have worked.
Not the way Matthew did.
If we lived in a world without Matthew Lillard, then
We would be very sad.
we would. But then we might have been looking to Anthony Michael Hall to fill those shaggy boots. As Joel emerges from his hiding spot between two cars, a police car goes by with its blues and twos on, and he hides again. When the police car finally leaves Joel's street, he comes out of hiding again and makes it to his car just as Dee Dee arrives, parking in front of him.
It's weird, though, because the cops are there looking for him. Because they go up to his apartment and he's not there. But they don't notice that his car is still there and go walk around the car or look in the car. Because they would have caught him if they'd done that.
Yes.
Fucking police, man.
Stinker.
Can't do anything right.
Stinker. So Dee Dee's got the crowbar. He gets out of the car and he says he's glad that it's her. He promises that he loves her and knows that she still feels the same. He says that he only tried to kill Frankie for her and for their happily ever after. She tells him that she hates him, waves the crowbar at him and calls him a predator. So he casts up how he managed to easily get her knickers off because apparently they got their hole one night after she came home from Paul's. And he says that she'll never escape him, and that's when she twats him with a crowbar, knocking him out. She cries about what she's done, but then he grabs her leg, still alive.
My leg!
Evil dies tonight!
Oh, you don't have the my leg fish anymore?
No. I've got this, though.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
We're sending help immediately, Mrs. Fletcher.
My leg!
Back at the station, SpongeBob Squarecast. Back at the station, Swain is talking to Tinker and he thinks that she should be at home. So she leaves demanding to know once they find Joel. Swain is at the precinct and sure enough, there's a mugging. And sure enough, she's run over when the mugger jumps in a car to escape. So what she was telling was the truth.
Yes. Swain never lies.
What got me at this point was...
And we think it's Mason's brothers who did the mugging and the running over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What got me was we didn't really learn a huge amount more than what we kind of already knew at this point.
Right, yeah.
And we're a quarter of the way through Friday's episode.
It's just confirming that people were more or less telling the truth about everything.
Right. But all the while, there's this ominous, eerie music playing as people confirm that they're telling the truth.
Yeah.
I don't know that it needs eerie, ominous music
No.
for that.
No, you know why? Evil dies tonight.
Oh,
Evil dies tonight!
so Dee Dee does indeed call Kit, and we see Kit demanding to know who he was speaking to. Dee Dee said that she disguised her voice.
Right. I'm not calling you, couple. Goodbye.
Can I speak to Mr. Kit, please?
I'm Bane, and I'm going to tell you who the I'm getting an awful lot of use out of Tom Hardy tonight.
Well, somebody has to. But was there a point when you were like kind of halfway through that impression that you thought maybe I shouldn't have started this? No. Okay.
I crack myself up. What can I say?
Very good. So, and then we see that Kit rushes to the scene and has the altercation that we already knew about with Joel, who's up and about again after getting twatted with a crowbar.
Right, yes. Yes, and speaking in cohesive sentences and able to stand up straight.
And drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
He threatens Kit with the Nathan evidence, which is enough to get Kit to stand down, and Joel gets in his car and drives off. Now, Dee Dee took a fair old swipe at him with that crowbar.
Yeah, I know. You see the jelly on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He shouldn't be driving. He shouldn't be standing up.
No, I don't think so.
It's a very disappointing head wound of the week.
Right.
Which, in fairness, has been head wound of the week for like
6
2
weeks,
months.
yeah.
Getting an awful lot of use out of this hospital set as well.
I know. So we're back at the hospital with Swain now. She's there getting seen for her injuries, but checks herself out against medical advice.
Yes.
She has a killer to catch and a daughter who's at home alone.
Right. And I'm sorry. She says no one saw any of this. The woman who was mugged was still there and must have seen this.
Mm-hmm.
And that nurse in the hospital saying you shouldn't leave. I'm sure that they could have called the hospital and confirmed that she was there and that her injuries would have kept her from picking up a rock.
They would absolutely have been able to confirm. She had her bracelet on, and the bracelet had her name on it. So she was checked into hospital, so
yeah,
she could easily prove that she was there.
Yeah, and why that wasn't the beginning and end of it.
Mm. So Kit gets back to the Rovers and deletes his recent calls list and then gets wired into the whiskey. Again, this is stuff that we've already seen, and again, this is accompanied by really ominous music.
Right, yeah, and it confirms that there wasn't anything more there.
And seemingly, though, he goes back to the station and he nicks the Nathan file. So we do see that. That's new information, I guess.
Yes.
Back at number 8, Racist Kelly can't sleep and is following Joel on the tramp tracker, which is now working. She sees where he is and calls Swain, but the battery dies before she can leave a message. So she and Max quickly leave. Racist Kelly gives him the CS spray and he tells her to stay at home. And as far as we know, that's what happens, but that obviously isn't what happens. He gets into a car because he can drive now, I guess. Yeah. And off he goes, and Racist Kelly, we learn later, talked herself into the car as well, so she's going along for the ride.
Yeah.
And then we see Joel leaving his suicide message to Dee Dee.
In the car.
Yeah. I don't know that makes all that much sense anymore.
Yeah, and also it doesn't make sense because he leaves it on the seat, but when Swain and Kit find it, it's on the dashboard.
Yes. Which, I guess, is Max is doing.
Right, yes.
But he was planning this fake suicide then already, before he got twatted in the head.
Yeah. Unless he had that notepad in the car. Because, people like to have a notepad in the car.
Well, they found that back at his flat.
No,
Yeah,
they
Kit
didn't.
found it at the flat.
No, it was on the dashboard of the car.
The suicide note was,
Yes.
but the pad that he wrote it on was found at his flat.
No, it was found in that abandoned house.
What abandoned house?
The abandoned house that the other getaway car was parked next to.
So Racist Kelly stays in the car as Max gets to the viaduct where Joel's car was found. Or one of Joel's cars was found. Max finds a note on the seat and then climbs up to the top of the bridge. He's watched from afar by Joel. On the bridge, he's surprised by Joel, who holds him over the edge of the bridge. And back in the interview room, Kit isn't believing it. He just found a rock just like that, and Max sticks to his story. We see the struggle as Max breaks free and points the CS spray at Joel's face and mocks him with his goodbye cruel world letter, but Joel calls his bluff and never at any point seems particularly threatened by this, and reckons that he can just walk away, calling Max a kid obsessed with a stupid tart who likes it rough. Joel says that Racist Kelly turned his stomach, and he distracts Max and knocks the CS spray out of his hands, grabs him again, and as he's holding him over the edge of the bridge, looking like he's going to push him over, it's Racist Kelly who twats Joel with a rock twice.
Yeah, but we don't know it's her initially. We assume it's her, but it's very weird the way that it's done, where we see the twatting, but we don't see who did it. And then we see the person's legs and hand smash him again and kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And then then we see her whole silhouette, and we know it's her because she's got those bobby horn things on the top of her head. But she's all blurred, and then she comes into focus. And it's we know Racist Kelly was in the car, so why are you trying to make this still a mystery about...
I don't think we knew at
her?
that point that Racist Kelly was in the car, because Max tells her to stay, and we see her getting into the car after we already know that it's her. That just a really weird way of telling that part of the story.
Right. Who else would it be? Nobody else would have known that he was going to this viaduct.
We saw the hand, and for a moment I'm like, please don't make this Swain.
Right.
Because none of this is going to make sense if it's Swain.
Because it is a feminine hand.
But really from the close on Wednesday, when Max is sitting in his jail cell saying, "What have I done? What have I done?" From that point on, it really had to be Racist Kelly, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And here's my problem with this.
Okay, give it to me. Give it to me,
Racist
baby.
Kelly was the victim of a terrible bit of grooming and
Abuse
and violence.
Yes.
And she's almost been killed by this guy who has...
And is terrified of this person.
Who has impregnated her, tried to kill the baby inside her and her again.
Right.
He escapes justice by running away and then being killed himself. And she's the one who has killed him. And she is the one now who's tortured with the thought that she's killed somebody. Mm-hmm. Even somebody who was going to kill Max and who attempted to kill her and has attempted to kill her baby. Even somebody like that. She's the one who's now living with that.
Yeah.
And that feels...
icky.
It feels like it's just pouring more trauma onto the victim in all this.
Yeah.
And in the live show that was on after the episode tonight, we saw a lot of the characters, the actors playing the characters on the show, saying that it made sense for Lauren to be the killer, and it made sense for her to get justice this way. But I'm not sure that this is justice.
No, it's not justice, because now she's going to lose her baby. She's going to lose her freedom. She's going to lose Max. And Joel gets to be dead.
Yeah.
He doesn't suffer. He doesn't have to pay for his crimes. He's just dead. That's not justice.
It feels that she is very shortchanged out of this by not getting the satisfaction that the man who did all this is paying for his crimes for years and years and years. And what she gets out of this is more trauma from being the one who has taken somebody's life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just as bad as if Dee Dee had done it. And I feel like
Did Dee Dee do it?
No, but Diddy did it.
Did they do it?
Diddy did do it. Yes. But anyway, I don't know if that joke has aged well.
Nothing ages well. Even this hasn't aged well.
Evil dies tonight!
I'm already sick of that.
And yet, it was your idea.
That's right. Blame me as always.
You know, this is just as bad as if Dee Dee had done it, because that, again, would be somebody who has essentially ruined her life, and she doesn't get justice. She doesn't get to see him sent down because he's dead, and she's hanging on this guilt about the fact that she did twat him with a crowbar. It's not justice. It's not cool. And I wish Coronation Street would just stop killing off its villains, because it's not a satisfying ending at all.
Verity McLeod, producer of the show, was one of the ones that was interviewed in the Killer on the Cobbles special.
Right.
And I'm not sure what about this storyline deserved an hour-long special afterwards. But anyway, so she's on getting interviewed, and she says, originally, they thought Joel was going to go to prison. That was the original plan.
And that would have been the right choice.
But as they got into it, she said, we realised there was a few more twists and turns we could put into it.
But you don't have to.
And that, right there, is what's wrong with this story.
Right.
There's an opportunity to put in more twists and turns.
Right.
Resist the temptation to do that.
Remember what Chanel said.
Who?
Coco Chanel.
Oh.
When you look in the, before you go out, look in the mirror and take one thing off.
That's how I got arrested that time.
Don't over-accessorize. It works for fashion. It works for screenwriting. It's like, oh, there's a way that we can extend this story further. And yes, you can extend a story as long as you like. That doesn't make it better.
No.
Adding more twists and turns doesn't make it better. It tends to make it worse. As we learned when we watched Heretic this past weekend. One too many twists and turns. And then the story just falls apart and is just silly. So maybe not. Maybe next time resist the urge for more twists and turns, and remember that you have other storylines that maybe you can move on to, and that would be better.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed that Racist Kelly is a killer.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Again, and again, the show, according to Verity McLeod, is hoping that we forgive Lauren in this.
And it makes it worse.
Which I don't know if I forgive her or not, but she was a racist character and now she's a killer. So
yeah,
it seems like a very odd redemption arc that ends with the person killing someone.
Right, and then letting someone else take the fall for it. Because let's not forget, she's letting Max take the fall here. She is telling a story.
And isn't batting an eyelid about it.
No, it's perfectly fine with it.
Not publicly, anyway.
No.
In private, that's a different story, but...
Yeah, but still, she's letting Max take the fall. And we have a deeper investment in Max than we do in Racist Kelly. We have seen Max be a good person. We still haven't really seen him get fully redeemed for being a racist little shit either. But
No,
at least with Max, we weren't introduced to him as a racist little shit. The way that we were introduced to Lauren, racist Kelly, as a racist little shit.
no. And how I remember Max is with a different head making PC Tinker feel uncomfortable.
Right, yes.
I'll leave you to it.
Yeah.
He does that again
Very
on
soon,
Fridays.
yeah.
So Max checks on Joel and he's as dead as disco. Racist Kelly drops the rock and starts to panic. What's she going to tell Frankie? I killed your dad. They're going to take Frankie from her and she's going to end up getting locked up. Max won't let that happen.
And it does look like she was disassociating there a little bit as well.
She was.
Which I thought was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Back at the station, Max has fallen asleep in the interview room. Kit's gone over the post-mortem and he asks if Max plays snooker because snooker is all about the angles. And the angles of Joel's injuries would suggest that whoever twatted him with the rock did so from behind. There's no way Max could have done it if events had unfurled the way that Max has described. The angles don't add up.
Unless he's like double jointed and can pop his arm out of the shoulder joint, to extend his arm just slightly more to be able to hit him over on the side of the rock. Or he's an alien or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Sadly, that's not the case, though.
Yeah.
Back on the bridge, Max remembers that Joel was going to commit suicide and has left a note, so they conspire together to throw Joel's body from the bridge and get rid of the rock. They were never there.
Again, it would be so much more convenient if they just left his body on the tracks and a train came by.
Yeah, which is why I don't think that bridge gets used.
Because that would be a much better way to fake a suicide.
Right.
Than throwing a already dead body into the river.
I can't imagine anyone choosing to kill themselves by lying on a train track and waiting hours for a train to come by, though.
You've never read any Dostoevsky, have you?
I have. I've read Notes from Underground.
Yeah, that's the wrong one.
Oh. I didn't realise there was a right one.
Well, that's the wrong one for suicide by train.
Okay. But as they throw him over the bridge and Joel plummets, he seems to be conscious.
I don't think so. I think
his eyes were open.
Yeah, but his eyes were open the whole time.
Oh, from the twatting?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah, because, dead people don't close their eyes. You have to close them and put pennies on them to keep them shut. And also to pay the guy that rows you across the river.
River Styx.
That's correct.
In the room, Max loses his cool and slams his fists on the table. Why would he lie? Exactly, says Kit. Why would you lie? Back in the car, Max and Racist Kelly get their story straight, while Racist Kelly comes to terms with the fact that she's just killed someone. Max says that she didn't kill someone, she saved his life, and he promises to make it okay. He tells her to focus on Frankie, and they'll get through this. And he tosses the rock into a bush. And they make amends.
And the spray.
And sort of plan to get rid of the suitcase at the tip tomorrow.
Yeah. So why would he take it out of the car in the middle of the night in front of Carla? Mm-hmm. Why? That doesn't make any sense, does it, Gav?
It doesn't make any sense.
No,
Helen,
it doesn't make any. No.
Does it?
No. And also, who paid for those fireworks?
Why would you try to frame this as a suicide, says Kit. And he terminates the interview and tells Max that he'll be recommending a charge of murder. Now get Racist Kelly in here. Start. So now Kit is interviewing Racist Kelly, who is a much calmer character now than she was on the bridge. Kit is keen to talk about the tramp tracker that's on her phone, and she just says that she wanted to know where Joel was and to make sure that he was nowhere near her. She wasn't going to track him down or anything. She sticks to the story that Max must have taken her phone and that's how he found him. She never spoke to Max. He must have taken it while she was asleep on the sofa. Oh yes, on the sofa.
On the sofa, you say?
This flies, though, in the face of Carla's statement, who saw her and Max with Joel's suitcase. Racist Kelly says that Max never said where the suitcase came from, and she never thought to ask because she's not like the pigs.
Right.
He told her there was nothing to worry about. Back at number 8, a tearful Shona comes home as David is trying to fix a leaky tap. She reminds him that Clayton is her son, and he reminds her that she said that she was there for his family. David doesn't give a fuck about Clayton and tells her that she has a decision to make. And at this, Tinker comes in, not in police business because he's not in his uniform, but he tells them that Max has been charged with murder. Tinker hurriedly leaves when David calls him a fucking idiot.
Well done, David.
At Dee Dee's, Ed and Ronnie drop in to visit, and Dee Dee quickly hides a bag as they come up the stairs. They tell her about Max, but she already knew. They want to keep her company, but she wants to be on her own. Ed will hear none of it, and he's about to go to the cupboard to get some tea, and that's where the bag is hidden. But Dee Dee sends him and Ronnie packing, says that they'll catch up tomorrow. And when they leave, she goes to the bag, and we discover that it holds a pregnancy test.
Yeah. I don't like this either.
Don't like this at all.
Don't like this at all because a core part of Dee Dee's personality is being celibate.
But
and there was yeah, we know what Joel said earlier in this episode, but I didn't like that either because
no, I didn't like that either.
Because a core part of Dee Dee's personality and character is that she is celibate by choice. And I don't know when in the recent past she would have been like, yeah, sure.
Well,
because in the recent past, when she would have possibly gotten, it's been more than 6 weeks since she found out that Joel was a wrong'un. It's been a while. So one would have hoped that she would have realized that she was possibly pregnant before now.
Mm-hmm. They're telling us that it happened after she came home from seeing Paul. And I think the insinuation is that she was so upset by that
she just
that she
let
agreed
it go.
to let her celibacy go.
Right. Her sadness on her friend shuffling off this mortal coil was the thing that made her drop trow. And I don't see that happening. The only way I see that happening is if Joel is taking advantage of a vulnerable woman, which he is known for doing.
Mm-hmm.
But that would have been, that had to have been more than 6 weeks ago. Again.
Well,
and
six
really
weeks ago was when they'd already split up 6 weeks ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing
They'd
with you.
already split up. And she's an intelligent woman. She would have figured out before now if she was pregnant. Because if she was conceivably pregnant from the time that they were still together. And one day she came home from Paul. But then again, the show doesn't understand how the body works anyway.
It's had plenty of practice with pregnancies, though. They should know that 3 months into a pregnancy is a long time to be doing a pregnancy test.
Right, yes. Yes, absolutely.
So David finds Swain at Nina's rolls and insists that Max didn't do it, and Swain doesn't care because she's not in the case, and asks, why did he say that he did then?
Oh my God. I totally forgot about one of the funniest bits of the whole Sally and Tim thing. When Sally storms into Nina's rolls and demands to know if Swain knows anything about her car.
Yes.
And Swain looks at her like, I'm sorry? Who are you again?
Just another brilliant part of that story. And the fact that she almost seemed to be about to say what Mason's second name was.
And yeah, it's gotta suck to be either a cop or a doctor in a small town.
That's why they're not
supposed to
live
right
where they work. So they see racist Kelly, and David remembers that she dragged Max into the far right group and doesn't trust a word that comes out of her mouth. She insists that she wasn't there when Joel died and says that she's sorry, but she can't help them. Swain goes into the Rovers and runs into Kit, and Kit admits that despite charging Max, he doesn't really think that he did it, and he suspects that both he and racist Kelly are lying. She didn't do it.
No.
He didn't do it.
No.
At the foster home, racist Kelly reads Max's letter where he outlines a plan, telling her that he's going to carry the can for killing Joel in self-defence, say that he stole racist Kelly's phone, she was never there. First she knew was when he came back with the suitcase. He promises he won't be setting down, and she needs to be there for Frankie, and he promises to be home soon. And that is how we end this week's episode.
Frankie, who is once again being played by a very unreal baby.
Right.
It looks like a cantaloupe stuck in a blanket.
Oh, wee baby cantaloupe.
Wee baby cantaloupe.
Now, when Joel's body was seen floating in the river.
Right. In a very shallow river.
It was in a bag.
No, it wasn't. It was a body. Because they freak out at seeing a body. Those kids fishing and drinking beers. That doesn't even look like a body. That looks like a box. It's not even shaped like a body. I remember seeing a body floating because you can see the arms and legs.
Nope, that's what you saw.
That's not what I remember.
Well,
I remember because we see it from afar for a while and it looks like a body.
That's what you see.
We see a foot.
No, you don't, because that's taken from that episode.
That doesn't make any sense. That would seem to insinuate that Max brought a body bag with him.
But he didn't, because we saw him just throw him off the bridge.
Right.
So I don't know if it's continuity or if this is the start of
They couldn't
another twist. Because remember, Ronnie spoke to someone and said,
Evil dies tonight!
To the guy that he saw in the alleyway of doom.
Right.
And that apparently never amounted to anything because we don't see Ronnie again.
No.
So did someone else find the body and
just stick it in a bag?
and stick it in a bag? Or was it just a mistake? And I think maybe it's just a mistake. Maybe the idea of seeing
Or maybe
Joel's bloated corpse floating down a river was deemed too much for 8 o'clock on a Monday evening or whenever it was.
Or maybe they murdered someone else? They murdered the wrong person?
A common theory leading into tonight's episode was that Joel wasn't really dead. That he was in cahoots, perhaps with Kit and his dad, to falsely identify a body and whatnot. And maybe...
Yeah, but that would mean that the lab has to lie as well.
Right, that the dental records are wrong and the DNA is wrong.
Right.
But for that to work, it just kind of begs a question of maybe there is something more to this. And based on how it's gone by them continually adding on twists and turns into storylines, maybe it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Joel was conscious when he was thrown over the bridge because he wasn't dead.
Yeah, but that would have killed him. That would have killed him.
It was a big splash. That was a deep part of the river that he landed in.
Yeah, but there were a lot of rocks there too. So you know his head hit something.
I don't know that I do know that.
And the fall, the impact would have killed him.
Yeah, because the show cares about that sort of thing.
I don't know.
Everything about the after show tonight suggests that what we saw was racist Kelly killing Joel and them disposing of the body. Mm-hmm. And that bag thing is just a continuity error or something. But I find the whole thing so unsatisfying that I kind of want it to be about something else. Or I just want them to make him alive so we can arrest him and put him in jail.
Yes.
And then racist Kelly doesn't kill anybody.
Right.
She doesn't have to have that on her conscience anymore. Right. Justice is served. Somebody goes to prison for once.
Or, maybe the show realizes it really just needs to cut its losses with racist Kelly. And this is the way that she goes out of the show. Because we're not the only ones who feel this way about her character.
No.
That she constantly is failing to be redeemed, and she hasn't been, and she's just not really gelling with people.
And again, I think maybe it's worth reiterating that this is not a comment on Kate Fitton's
No,
acting, because she
absolutely
was
not.
really, really
Absolutely
good.
not.
And really, I think the acting in general
Yeah.
in Fridays was top notch.
Yeah, it's the way she's written. It has
But
nothing
yeah,
to do with her.
she's written as a really
Unsympathetic
unredeemable,
character. Yeah.
unsympathetic character.
Yep.
And who's going to go to jail for this? Is it going to be Max or is it going to be Racist Kelly? I can't see them throwing Max away for this.
No.
Although,
Maybe he'll bump into Gav.
one way or the other, I think he's going to have to serve something. He's either perverting the course of justice or he's getting done as an accomplice here.
Right.
Who knows? But it just doesn't feel like, obviously, we're not at the end of this. There's still going to be an investigation that has to continue, and Kit seems to be very much of the belief that the both of them are lying about everything. So I guess it's not quite at an end, but
No.
a bit of a damp squib, I think,
Yeah.
having Racist Kelly being the killer. But
again, of all of the people that it could have been, she's the one would be the least sorry to see go.
she's the most disposable.
Yeah. Yeah, which kind of sucks when you consider that we just barely know Kit. And we still consider Racist Kelly more disposable.
And again, and it's a shame because she's such a good actor as well,
Yeah.
because she's had so many really great moments, a lot of great moments with Roy, and I think she's been doing the character as much as she can, doing the character justice as much as she can. But I'm not going to lose any sleep if the character's not long for Coronation Street.
I do have to say, though, I was wrong. Frankie did make it out of that hospital alive.
He did. We did.
He's a cantaloupe. But he's alive.
He's turned into a type of melon, but he's an alive melon, and that's all that matters. And what would happen to him if she goes to jail? Oh, see, this is
Well-
such a bad idea about making her the killer.
Well, let's remember, she was going to go live with the Platts.
Mm-hmm.
And the Platts want a baby.
Oh. Oh, no. Oh.
You know, and if all else fails, they can just give it to Toya.
Yeah. Let's do that. Toya, here you go. Here's a melon. Knock yourself out. All right. That was the week that was Coronation Street. Helen, tell me, what was your moment of the week?
Sally yoinking Mason.
Yep. That's my moment of the week.
That's my moment of the week. And apologies to all the hard work the show has done on the stupid conclusion of who killed Joel.
Let's think of
We disapprove of this storyline. It was never going to be our moment of the week.
all the expense that was put into the planning of this and the execution of the storyline and the volume walls a go-go that were used. But
Yeah.
the thing that was the best thing that happened in over 2 hours of television this week in Coronation Street was a woman yoinking a youth into her house.
Right.
That is our
Moment of the week.
Our moment of the week. And that's how the founders of Coronation Street would have wanted it.
absolutely.
Because-
Absolutely.
It was a show about regular people
And their
getting
yoinkings.
yoinked into a house.
What was your boring moment of the week?
Wasn't there... There was a weird bit of trivia about something, and I'm trying to remember what it was. At Nina's Rolls, wasn't there a scene where Carla's sitting there and... Was it Roy who gives a little bit of trivia or something? I'm trying hard to remember. It wasn't really a boring week.
No.
But I do feel like something weird was discussed to just fill time at some point, and I can't remember what it was.
Could it possibly be Sally talking to Maria about... Or was it Sally talking to Swain? No, because that was funny.
That was funny. Or is it the treacly, here's an empty photo album that you can fill with pictures of Bobby?
But not like that.
No, it's Sally and Maria.
Yeah. That's our...
Because that was pointless. That added nothing to that story.
No.
It could have added something to that story if Maria had said to Sally, well, you know, he saved Liam's life.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not mad at him anymore.
Do you know, that would have really been a vital thing to say to Sally, just so that she starts to think differently about Mason a little bit.
That's what should have happened
They
there.
should have done that.
And it didn't.
All right, let's talk about our non-scientific Twitter poll. Every week I ask our Twitter followers to vote on what they thought of the show this week, whether they think it was yay, meh, or zzz. And I would do this on Blue Sky if Blue Sky had polls.
Bring in the polls.
Get polls
Blue
in
Sky.
here. We got 100 votes on this poll within 2 minutes of it being launched.
Interesting.
And at the moment it's sitting with 288 votes. Yay is 8.7%. Meh is 33.3%. And zzz is 58%. A lot of commentary on the thread there that says it wasn't exactly boring, but it was just purely executed.
Correct.
Which I kind of agree with. I don't think it was boring either. But hey, we don't let those scores influence our score. So Helen, I'll invite you to tell me what your score out of 10 was.
6.5.
Oh, it's high as that?
Yeah. Because as we pointed out, there wasn't really any boring bits. And it would be higher if Joel had gone to jail.
Yeah, I'm thinking 5.5 for me. I think there was an awful lot of it that didn't really work, or were asked to think that this is a satisfying ending and a satisfying conclusion to this part of the storyline, and I just can't. So, oh well.
Oh well, indeed.
Let's wrap this one up then. This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast. Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Trisha, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, English Victoria, Aurora Yvonne, Heather Westerfield, Russell Whiting, Jackie B, Brittany Porter, Laurie Anna, Tina, Colin Burt, Stephen and Leah. Thank you so very much, folks. We really appreciate it.
Muchas gracias.
If you've ever bought a volume wall and been determined to get your money's worth out of it, write in to tell us about it. We're the talkofthestreet@gmail.com. And we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky. Or you can reach us the old-fashioned way, the Talk of the Street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street, or patreon.com/the Talk of the Street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to a merch store, YouTube channel and blog. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists. Freedom! Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. And we will be back next week with more
Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street, y'all.
Bye.
Evil dies tonight!